Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game where you will have to pause the video quite a lot. It was played some 10 days ago in the Abu Dhabi Masters. This is round 4, Baadur, Jobava versus Aleksandar Indjic. And it's really an interesting game. All of the games were very interesting and I really had to decide which one to choose. And for those of you who don't know, sometimes during 2012, Jobava was rated some 2730 something, which I believe in 2012 was enough to rate you maybe even in the top 20 in the world. And now his rating plummeted to 25th 80, so that's a significant drop, and we haven't heard from him in quite a while. So just checking up on how he's doing, and this is one of the games that I thought was very interesting. So without further ado, let's check it out, and it also features a very nice line of the Sicilian. We have e4 by Jobava, we have c5 by Indjic, knight to c3, preparing the Chameleon with knight g e2. We have knight to c6 and now knight g to e2, the Chameleon variation, which can often be used as a surprise to your opponents as it's somewhat unexplored, so maybe black can wander off in some uncharted territory. We have g6 by black, and now Jobava just transposes into the accelerated dragon. We have d4, c captures, knight captures, and now bishop to g7. We have bishop to b3. Jobava declines the trade, gets the knight over to b3, and now knight to f6. Black prepares the castle. We have bishop to e2, and now d6. And here both players castle. We have castles, and now rook to e1. We have b6 by black, preparing bishop to b7, and now bishop to g5. And bishop to b7. We have queen to d2, preparing bishop to h6 to trade off the dark square bishops, and now rook to c8. And there is one game in the database where bishop to f1 was played, but here bishop to h6 is a new move, and now as of move 12 we have a completely new game. And I almost forgot, let's just get this over with. Alright, that's very nice. We have knight to e5, now just putting the knight to a nice central square, also eyeing that c4 square. Knight to c4 would be a very nice move, so here Jobava just prevents it with bishop captures on g7, king captures on g7, and now queen to d4, a nice centralizing move with the queen. Also now the bishop and the queen guard the c4 square, and if you don't want the queen to remain on such a lovely centralized square, you have to get rid of her. So knight back to c6, pushing the queen back. We have queen to e3, and now we have e6 by black. We have rook 8 to d1, nicely developing, and now queen to e7. Black also develops, connects the rooks, and now the other rook can come, for example, to d8 or e8. We have queen to c1. Now this is an excellent attacking move by Jobava. You might be wondering what kind of an attacking move is queen to c1. Well, it just clears the e3 square for the white rook. The idea is rook d3 followed by rook to h3, and from h3 both the rook and the queen are controlling the h6 square, so this is what Jobava will use as an attacking idea. We have rook f to d8 now, preparing d5, and here rook to d3, just continuing with his idea. We have bishop to a6 now, with idea of maybe trading off the light square bishops. Rook to h3 as planned, bishop captures on e2, and now rook captures on e2. Jobava doesn't like queen to h6 check first, as the h7 pawn is protected, so after king g8 you will have to recapture, then queen f8, and the white queen has to go back. You're not really interested in trading queens here. So just rook captures on e2, and now Indjic plays h5. Preventing any queen to h6 ideas. We have f4 by Jobava, and now comes knight to g4. So the knight is now nicely protected on g4, and well, you could have some ideas of maybe pushing d5. Then if the knight ever moves from b3, you could have some queen c5 check, maybe followed by knight to f2. So rook to f3. Putting the rook to a new attacking square, and now also two rooks guard the f2 square, so you always have less to calculate in the future. We have a6 by black, and now h3, kicking the knight back, knight to f6, and now comes queen to e1. The queen is now coming to f2. We have b5 by black. Now this diagonal opens up for the black queen, so white just gets the king out of the way. We have king to h1, and now comes rook to c7. And here we have queen to f2. And here, black should have taken this opportunity to play b4 and just bust open with d5. For example, b4, you get rid of the knight defending the d5 square, knight a4, and now d5, and this would have been great for black. For example, d captures, rook captures, and the position nicely opens up. And as we always say, if you can push d5 as black in the Sicilian, you should always do it if you can. Here, black played rook to e8 first, preparing e5 now, and here Jobava realized that there was a grave danger lurking with this b4 move, so he just prevented it with a3. We have rook to h8 now, preparing h4, and here Jobava plays rook back to d3. We have h4, and now rook e to d2, piling up on the d6 pawn. We have a5, here preparing to push a4 or b4, depending on what white plays. Queen to e3, and then now comes a4. And here, Jobava doesn't mind all the pawn pushing on the queen side. He plays knight to d4, and here you have to capture the knight. Knight captures on d4. After rook captures, you can play rook h back to c8, and you continue the game in this fashion. But here, Indjic played knight to a5, and here, Jobava played a very nice idea. We have b3. Now challenging the pawn here, a captures on b3, c captures on b3, and now rook to b7. Preparing a trick as the b5 pawn is attacked twice. You don't really have a good way of defending it. But this is what I meant when I said Jobava doesn't mind all the pawn pushing on the queen side. Here, knight c captures on b5 is played, and e5 now, as black prepared e5. So his idea is that, of course, after f captures on e5 and d captures on e5, now you have to move the knight, and after the knight moves, you just nicely win a piece. But Jobava had something else in mind, so feel free to pause the video here and try to find what Jobava had in mind here. While I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent forker of kings and queens. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, knight f5. And yes, now the b5 pawn is unprotected, but your king is in check, and also the queen is under attack. So you do have to capture the knight if you don't want to lose the queen. Here we have g captures on f5. Queen g5 check, and now what do? Do you go king f8 or king to h7? Jobava had to do a lot of calculating here. Because, for example, if king to h7, then you get knight to d6. First, you get the knight into the game, and it doesn't really matter what black plays. The f5 pawn is under attack, the h4 pawn is under attack, the rook on b7 is under attack. So whatever you do here, let's say rook g8, you're going to get queen captures on h4 check, king g7, and now just knight captures on f5. Another check where you will lose the queen. On the other hand, after knight to d6, you might try something like knight to e8. Offer a queen trade, but then queen captures on f5 check, king h6, now knight captures on b7, you just win material, knight captures on b7, and now rook to d7 wins more material, the queen and the knight are under attack. If queen f6, just rook captures here, and well, you will just enjoy a much better endgame. So king to h7 out of the question, Indjic goes king to f8, but Jobava has everything planned out. We have rook to d8 with check, and now knight to e8, or you can just grab the rook and then you lose the game, but after knight to e8, you still have to find what to play here. So again, feel free to pause the video here and try to find the winning move for Jobava in this situation. While I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations for solving yet another puzzle in this very exciting game. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, rook captures on e8. This is the idea, and now whatever black plays is insufficient. For example, if king captures, then you get queen to g7, threatening queen captures rook as the rook controls the d file. And after rook to f8, you're just going to get knight d6 check. King to d8, and now you play knight captures on f5, discovering a check, and now the queen is under attack. You have to play king e8 if you don't want to lose the rook as well. So king e8, knight captures, rook captures, for example, and now you have, yes, black does have two rooks for a queen, but you also have a rook against a knight, and white will be completely winning here. So after rook captures on e8, Indjic played queen captures on e8, and now you could play rook d8, although it doesn't give you all that much. Black will play rook captures on b5, and now after you capture the queen, captures, you still have to play against two rooks and the knight. Okay, here white is tactically winning because after queen f6 attacking the rook, you have to move it, and then b4 is just deadly, as you either lose the knight or you move the knight and then you face queen c6 check. But it's a lot of unnecessary calculation, because there is a much better move after queen captures on e8. Not rook to d8 right away, but first queen to f6. And now it's a bit different, and you'll see why it's different. Rook to g8 by Indjic, and now comes rook to d8. So you might think, okay, it's the same line, but it's not. Rook captures on b5, just grabbing the knight, and now, okay, you could capture here, push b4 like we had in that line, but there is a much better move. So for the third and last time in this video, pause it and find the absolute best move for white, which is what Jobava played. While I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are an excellent solver of all the positions that I asked you to solve in this video. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, queen to h6 check. And now you see the problem. If you move the king, then queen to d6 is mate. We again have this structure where the king has nowhere to go and the queen just controls this diagonal. And if you play rook to g7, after queen to h6, well, this was played, rook to g7, just blocking check. Now you get queen d6 check. And now the king has to move. The queen cannot block as the queen is pinned, so you have to move the king. King g8, rook captures on e8 with check, king to h7, and now just queen to d7. And it was in this position that Aleksandar Indjic resigned the game, and an excellent victory for Baadur Jobava in round 4 of the Abu Dhabi Masters 2019. So why did he resign? Aside from the obvious material difference, his rook is under attack. Also, the f5 pawn is under attack. If you play rook b6 to maybe get the rook into the game, now you play queen d8, attack the rook and the h4 pawn again. And now after rook h6, defending the pawn, now you play captures on f5. You take away the g6 square from the black king, threatening rook h8 mate. And after black deals with this, now you just go for some rook hunting. Rook h8 check, king g7, you deliver check, king here check, king captures, and now after a few more moves, black will get checkmated, and that is it. So of course both Jobava and Indjic knew this, and here Indjic resigned the game. So this is not the only game Jobava won. Jobava won all the games he played except 2 that he drew, but he didn't lose any of the games, and he won the Abu Dhabi Masters 2019, which is, a big achievement for him in a very long time, which is usually the case. His games are always interesting, as he plays a very aggressive style, very attacking style, such as, like Mikhail Tal, for example. And with that style, you don't very often have the adequate results. He will play some very interesting games, sacrifice a lot of pieces, play brilliantly, but then maybe he will finish 3rd or 10th. And maybe even lose rating. But here he won 7 games, drew 2, and he finished clear first, and he even won some 30-something rating points. So he jumped from 25, 80 to 26 something. So obviously getting the rating back now. But it's usually the case when someone plays a very interesting style. They will not get all that much result, but they will play a very interesting games, and people will be very happy when they see their games. Such as, for example, Rashid Nejmedinov's games. But yeah, here I would just like to share the standings. Here are the standings after 9 rounds of the Abu Dhabi Masters. You can see Baadur Jobava. Sorry, it's bigger like that. Baadur Jobava first with 8 points, 8 out of 9. That's just insane. Second, Nodirbek with with 7 points, and then all the rest with 6.5, 6, and 5, which is just basically crushing the field. There we have it. I do hope you enjoyed it. I certainly have. I would like to thank Lionel Weitenauer, Tom Stefanescu, Yevgeny Levantsov, and Eric Cryer for their contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Checking up on your suggestions. We're starting with the Sinfield Cup today, and of course continuing the Capablanca saga. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your weekend.